The Galactic Council chamber fell into an eerie silence as the human delegation seats remained empty for the third consecutive session. Ambassador Hannah Chen's absence was noted in the official record with a single, ominous word, declined. Across the vast amphitheater of crystalline walls and floating platforms, representatives from 47 star nations shifted uncomfortably. The Vraxian Imperium's lead diplomat, a creature of chitin and calculated malice, clicked its mandibles in what might have been amusement or concern. The distinction hardly mattered anymore. They refused to even send a message, wheezed the Keltorian chancellor, its gaseous form swirling with agitated colors. In 3,000 cycles of council history, no species has simply stopped talking. On Earth, in a modest apartment overlooking the ruins of old Geneva, Hannah sat with her morning coffee and watched the stars. Her communicator had been buzzing for weeks. 73 missed calls from the council, 241 messages from various ambassadors, some pleading, some demanding, some threatening. She had read exactly none of them. "You think they're panicking yet?" Evan Torres asked from the kitchen, where he was preparing breakfast with the kind of casual ease that belied his position as humanity's chief military liaison to extraterrestrial affairs. "Without a doubt," Hannah replied, taking another sip. "The Vraxians made their move against the Helios colonies 2 weeks ago. The council condemned it with their usual strongly worded statement. And we said nothing. Beautiful, isn't it? Evan brought over a plate of eggs and toast. 40 years of playing by their rules, filing complaints, following protocols, begging for interventions that never came. And now silence. The pattern had been established long ago. Humanity had entered the galactic stage with hope and naivety, believing in the promise of the council's laws and the protection they supposedly offered. When the Krill Dominion had seized human mining operations in the Cassiopeia sector, humanity had filed formal complaints. The council had deliberated for 6 months before issuing a non-binding recommendation. When the Vraxian Imperium had blockaded human trade routes, choking off supplies to 15 colonies, humanity had invoked emergency provisions. The council had scheduled a fact-finding committee for 8 months later. When raiders from the Scarian Confederacy had attacked human civilian transports, killing thousands, humanity had demanded justice. The council had expressed deep concern and suggested bilateral negotiations. Each time humanity had spoken. Each time humanity had followed the rules. Each time humanity had been ignored, so humanity had stopped speaking. In the council chamber, panic was setting in with the subtlety of a supernova. The Vraxian diplomat had approached the Keltorian chancellor in what passed for a private conversation, though everyone's sensors picked it up anyway. "You must understand," the Vraxian hissed. "We moved against those colonies because they violated the Treaty of Sigma Draconis. The humans should have filed a complaint. They should have brought evidence. They should have done exactly what they always do." The chancellor interrupted, its colors flashing angry crimson. "Followed procedure. Allowed us to debate and delay and ultimately do nothing. But they didn't. They said nothing. And 3 days ago, every Vraxian military installation within 50 light-years of human space simply disappeared." The Vraxian's mandibles clacked in rapid succession, definitely concerned now. "Disappeared? Gone. Bases, supply depots, surveillance stations. No debris fields. No distress signals. No survivors, just gone. And the humans won't even confirm they were responsible. They won't deny it either. They won't say anything at all." Similar conversations were happening across the chamber. The Scarian ambassador was discovering that its government's raider fleets had gone silent. All 73 ships across a dozen systems. The last transmissions had been abrupt and filled with impossible sensor readings. Human vessels appearing from nowhere, moving faster than known physics allowed, hitting with precision that suggested they'd been tracking every raider ship for months. The Krill Dominion's representative had received word that morning that their military forces had been politely but firmly escorted out of every disputed system by human ships that materialized from what should have been empty space. No shots fired. No communication. Just a clear, unmistakable message written in the language of position and power. On Earth, Hannah's communicator finally fell silent. She picked it up and scrolled through the final message. It was from the Council Secretary General itself, a being of pure energy whose species had founded the Council millennia ago. The message was simple. Please, we need to talk. Hannah showed it to Evan. He read it and smiled. What do you think? I think, Hannah said slowly, that for 40 years we needed to talk. We needed them to listen. We needed them to act. And they had all the time in the universe for procedure, but none for justice. She set down the communicator. Let them wait a little longer. Across human space, the fleet movements that had terrified the galaxy were already complete. Humanity hadn't built a larger military. They'd simply stopped announcing where it was going. They hadn't developed new weapons, they'd simply stopped explaining their capabilities. They hadn't become more aggressive. They'd simply stopped asking permission. The galaxy had mistaken humanity's politeness for weakness, their adherence to law for inability to act without it, their patience for infinite tolerance. They had been wrong. In the council chamber, an emergency session was called. For the first time in 3,000 years, the agenda had only one item: terms of human re-engagement. Every representative understood the unspoken truth. Humanity would speak again eventually. But when they did, the galaxy would listen, truly listen, or face the consequences of a species that had learned the hard way that laws without enforcement were merely suggestions, and suggestions could be politely declined. Hannah finished her coffee and looked at Evan. How long should we make them wait? How long did they make us wait for justice? Too long to count. Then let's start there, Evan said with a grin. And maybe add a few weeks for interest. Outside, the stars shone as they always had. But somewhere out there, 47 civilizations were learning an old human lesson. Sometimes the most terrifying sound in the universe isn't a declaration of war. It's silence from someone you've wronged who finally has nothing left to say.